Hey, it's Ben. Today I'm recording from a farmhouse, rural farmhouse in upstate New York. And so um, years ago, they built so many of these homes like way too close to the road. So we may hear some traffic noise if it comes through on the microphone. Uh, Cars, motorcycles, other heavy construction equipment. But anyway, um, years ago, uh, began to develop a whole series of intensive meditation practices. These practices all awaken the body and mind's own innate healing intelligence. So initially, how it started was, when I had a lot of the traumas of my childhood and adolescence resurfacing in my mid-20s, I just instinctually just somehow knew to dive into the depths of all those emotions. And at the time, the pain was excruciating, but again, I would go dive deep into the middle of it all, and I would just keep breathing indefinitely. And as I would do so, um, the pain would often intensify, but at a certain point, I could feel it just breaking open inside of me and just coming out of my body in waves. And as I continued to breathe into what I was feeling there, I would experience these emanations beginning to open or flow from within my body. As that happened, I could feel this stronger sense of connectedness to a higher power. So it was very effective in terms of helping me to work through a lot of those difficult emotions. If I was dealing with situations in those days, it was usually triggered by a relationship that wasn't quite working so well. It would help me to both work through the emotions and also dissolve or let go of those unhealthy attachments. And so I've continued to work with this practice over the years, but as you keep doing practice, much of that pain dissolves and that deeply wounded, vulnerable space. And so as I went through life and I was encountering all kinds of challenges, I developed practices that I found to be effective for helping me to navigate these different challenges. And also over the years, working with thousands of individuals, both in individual and group settings, people would show up with such widely varying needs, and I needed to be able to accommodate or to adapt my practices and the practices that I gave them to work with according to their own specific needs. So over the years, many people have come to work with me that, say they have childhood experiences of physical, emotional, sexual abuse, especially. And many of these individuals were in a especially vulnerable state. Just their emotions were very raw. And as I said, normally I would have people, sometimes I would have them bring an individual into the forefront of their awareness or a situation or a challenge they're dealing with, to dive into the depths of those emotions and to begin to breathe very softly and deeply. And yet, if somebody was deeply traumatized and they were in that very raw, emotionally vulnerable state, that was too much. It didn't take me long to realize that that I needed to change my approach in working with them. And so what I'd have them do is that I would just have them be present within their bodies, but instead of diving deeply into those emotions, I would have them to begin to soften, to relax best they could within their body and begin to breathe, again, very softly and deeply. But again, we're changing the focus here. Instead of diving so deeply into those feelings and bodily sensations, they're just being present within their body. Sometimes a focus that encompasses their whole body, as opposed to just going to the place where they're hurting, just encompass the whole body. And as I'd have them breathe softly and deeply, I'd say, okay, feel yourself becoming very permeable. Permeability, like when you take a tea bag and you set it into the water and the molecules begin to disperse. They go through that membrane of the tea bag and they disperse and begin to move through the water. And so you can do the same thing if you're experiencing anxiety or other overwhelming emotions. And so as you're able to be present with those emotions, to stay present, and you breathe very softly, very deeply, follow, or in this case, you're just allowing the anxiety, the grief, the pain, the sadness, whatever you're feeling, you could allow that to move through your system, move through your body. As you keep doing that, what happens is there's a softening of all that intense emotion. The emotions become more bearable, more manageable. And so again, if I have someone that, there are many situations where you could apply this. In 2008 and 2009, when the banksters, Goldman Sachs and Bear Stearns and other financial institutions were engaging in all these risky financial maneuvers, and it resulted in them crashing our economy. And at that time, it's business dried up. I just didn't have that many people to work with, and things were changing as well, because there was a time when more and more people were getting on smartphones, and we didn't quite have social media. I guess maybe it's beginning, but people were becoming more distracted. But for any reason, all these reasons, I didn't have as much work, and there's this overwhelming fear and anxiety at the time. And so many nights I'd be just laying in bed, just having difficulty going to sleep, and I would just breathe with that anxiety. I would just feel myself becoming permeable, and I would just keep breathing, keep following the feelings, or allowing the feelings and sensations to move through me. But anytime that you find yourself in a situation where you're just overwhelmed with grief, sadness, anxiety, other painful emotions, you can, again, the important thing is to feel yourself becoming as present as you can within your body, instead of going, like normally what I would do is I'd ask people, like, okay, what do you feel? Where are those feelings present in your body? Are they located in your chest cavity, further down your abdomen, some other part of your body? And I'd have them go directly down into the middle of those feelings. With this practice of being permeable, your focus is more spread out through your body, encompassing more, maybe the whole body. And then at the same time, instead of going so deep into the middle of the emotions, you're just allowing those emotions to flow through you. You're not trying to push it out of your body. You're not trying to get rid of the feelings or shut them out. You allow the emotions, the feelings, the stress, or whatever you're dealing with. Allow them to be present and allow them to go at their own pace. You just keep breathing, and while being present and allowing the feelings to move through you. Another thing that's very important here is to make sure you're breathing optimally for this practice. If you're breathing, as many people do, very shallowly, you're high up in your chest. You're not inhaling, you're not filling your lungs with air. That shallow breathing, it tends to reinforce that stuckness, that overwhelm, the anxiety, the panic. And so as you're doing this practice, and I realize that the camera's not showing me from the waist down, or waist up, I mean. But as you do this practice, you want to expand your lungs fully. You want to inhale fully, breathing all the way down to your abdomen. You want your rib cage to be expanding outwards. So you want to be taking very full, complete breaths as you do this practice. And after you inhale fully, you just want to exhale fully as well. And you want to be breathing as slowly and as softly as you possibly can. So softly that if the room were completely silent, you would barely even be able to hear at all, the breath. So just breathing very deeply, filling your lungs as deeply as you could possibly breathe without forcing it. And as softly and as slowly as you can breathe. Now, can you do this practice and just in one shot, just be over your anxiety or whatever emotions are being triggered? Well, in some instances, there are times where you find yourself in a difficult or challenging situation that evokes very unpleasant emotions, and you're able to just be present, open up to those emotions, immerse yourself in what you're feeling, and just as you breathe and you allow these feelings to work their way through you. In some instances, you can work through something in one sitting. But in many instances, especially if there is a history of trauma, these same kinds of emotions will continue to resurface. You'll experience, as I said, there's heavy traffic on this road sometimes, but a lot of these same emotions are going to reemerge at times. But as that happens, the important thing is to just bring your awareness back to your body. What is it that you're feeling? Allow yourself to be present with these feelings. Continue to breathe and let these feelings work through you. As you do this over time, this is going to help you to manage difficult or unpleasant, painful emotions. It's going to make them much more manageable. And I've used this practice at times where I'd have someone that was going through a panic attack, and they would call me. And as I had them there on the phone, I would walk them through the panic attack, walk them through to the other side, and it would diffuse those overwhelming emotions, and it would help them to become more grounded, much calmer. Initially, I'd encourage you to do this practice while you're sitting up. Do this practice with your eyes closed, and again, while sitting up. But as you continue to work with this practice, as you become more proficient, when you find yourself becoming triggered emotionally, you learn to be present with the emotions, you breathe, allow them to flow through you. And as they soften, as they become more diffuse, and you're developing that proficiency, when you find yourself in different situations, you're interacting with someone, or maybe they're saying something or doing something that's upsetting, or you find yourself in a situation, and it's not always going to be conducive to sit down, close your eyes. It's going to look weird. And that kind of a situation. So, but as you become more proficient doing this practice on your own, when you're on your own, you're sitting with your eyes closed. If you're having trouble going to sleep late at night, then you're laying in bed, and then maybe you're breathing through the anxiety. And after some time, allowing that anxiety to diffuse, as it softens, you're able to drift off to sleep. But then when you're out and about, when you're moving around in the world, and again, someone in your interaction, they're saying you're doing something or some situation that's triggering you, right there in the midst of whatever's happening, you can be there fully present with your eyes open, interacting, even carrying on a conversation. Although I find that when I'm doing this, I tend to let the other person do more of the talking. but what I find is I can breathe with the emotions that are coming up, and that will enable me to be more, to become calmer, to feel more grounded. It's how when you see those sporting events, like Olympic skiing competitions, or football or baseball or something, and they put that slow motion, you could rewatch the play. There's something about it that when I'm doing this practice, it seems to slow time down a bit. Maybe it's just slowing my response or reaction time or something, but what I find is it gives me a little more time to reflect on what I'm going to say. I can be more thoughtful about my response instead of just reacting or saying something that I might later regret. I could have a little more time to reflect. And I also find that as I get myself into a more calmer, more relaxed state, there's this phenomenon called sympathetic resonance, where you strike one tuning fork and another tuning fork in its proximity will begin to vibrate as well. So it facilitates a similar process. As I go into a deeper, more relaxed state, it helps to calm down another individual or, other people, who are in my immediate proximity. So I found it useful to help diffuse those situations, or take people into a space where they themselves are more open and reflective and a bit calmer as well, maybe a lot calmer. So this one's just a brief video for today. Again, just to reiterate, as I said, anytime you find yourself triggered emotionally and you're just feeling overwhelmed, if the emotions are, I find it most powerful if we can go directly dive into the depth of those emotions, breathe from the depth of what we're feeling. But if the emotions feel like they're too strong, too overwhelming, it feels like they're more than what we can manage, at least initially, then in that case, allow yourself to be permeable, feel yourself present in your body, allow yourself to experience the emotions, but as you breathe with them, feel as though you're just, again, not pushing it out, but just let it flow through you. Let it work its way through you. As you keep doing this, this will get you into a much calmer, more relaxed, more grounded space. So, as I said, brief video for today. So I'll leave you with that for now. Bye.